to have. It's, oh, thanks. I'll start over. So welcome to this remote meeting of the Youngstown Regional Planning Board. It's Thursday, February 29th. It was apropos that we needed, we would get another day since it's been 4 years. So they added another day for February, just so we could officially have a meeting in February. And so we do have a quorum, and we will, I guess we can just go around, Greg, and we have to officially have a roll call vote. So Greg, why don't you start?
Yeah, I'm still letting in a few people here. Just
Okay.
see if anybody else comes in real quick. Yeah, we definitely. Oh, there's Mac and got Steve here, and nice. Oh, hello. All right. Well,
Oh, I see Raina. How are you? Hi.
All right. So I will.
Bill?
I'll just do a roll call. So Dorinda,
Here.
David,
That's a good way to test the mic too.
we didn't hear you, David. Okay, he's waving. Jennifer,
Here.
Alan,
Present.
Pat,
Here.
Deb Loomer,
Here.
Karen,
Here.
Cliff,
Here.
Raina,
Here.
Steve,
I'm here.
Michelle,
Here.
and Deb Potee.
Is Deb Potee here? Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here. Sorry.
And, welcome
Is my
to.
microphone working now?
Yes, it is. Yeah, thanks, David.
I'm just a little more confused in my computer.
And welcome Jay and Mac and Steve. Where did Steve go?
Oh, great. Great. They are here. Hi, Jay. You're right. And Steve.
Yeah, well,
and
Steve
there's
was
Mac.
here a second ago. I don't know. I don't see him now. Where'd he go?
Well, I
wasn't.
did see it for a sec too. So we have officially opened the meeting, and we had a roll call vote,
Oh, that's Steve right
and
there.
we'll proceed with the business of the meeting. The announcements, if we have any problems with this, we'll try to resolve them and then come back on. If we're not able to do that, we'll have to repost and reschedule. So let's just move along. I'm going to move out, pass over the minutes for now, and the communication. I'd like to get right to
Well,
the,
hey, Alan, we
Yeah.
can vote on the January 3rd minutes.
you want to do that?
Yeah,
Okay.
those went
So
out several weeks ago.
all right. Why don't you make a motion then?
Well,
I'll make a motion, Bill.
So Bill moved to accept the January 3rd minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
And seconded by Dorinda. Any discussion on them? All right, I don't see any hands, and thank you, Greg, for doing that. That's great. So again, roll call vote. Go ahead, Greg.
Okay, Dorinda. Yes.
Yes.
All right, David.
Yes.
We could hear you that time. Jennifer,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Deb Loomer. Deb Loomer.
That was Deb Loomer, yep.
Okay, thank you. Karen.
Yes.
Okay, Cliff,
Yes.
Raina,
Yes.
Bill,
Yep.
Steve,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
and Deb Potee.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you. So those have been approved. So I will move right along. So we did have a response from Mars, and we were delighted to see that consulting group. And we had correspondence from Jay Berry. I think, I could be wrong on this, who's sort of is taking the lead. I don't know if they take turns or whatever, but I think he's the lead consultant in this. I see Mac Reed. Haven't seen you for a while. Hi, Mac. And then I thought I saw Steve, but maybe not. So if he's joining us later, oh, that's fine. So we had your proposal. We appreciate you having the interest in helping us move this to what I'm considering is the final step before we start communicating at a higher level with folks. So, Jay, do you mind if I turn this over to you to just review the proposal? If anyone has any questions, the document was sent out to folks. If they didn't get a chance to, review it ahead of time, I'm sure you'll cover some of the salient points along the way. Is that all right, Jay?
Sure. I just want to get something in front of me. Okay, so yeah, just summarize the proposal that we sent in. We sent along the documentation that we've done this kind of work before. Spoke to our qualifications, our resumes are in there. And as most of you, I know there's been some changes with board membership, but most of you remember that if I can call it phase 1 and phase 2, that we worked with you previously. And then, yeah, so knowledge of state laws and knowledge of regional agreements and all that sort of thing. So in terms of our scope and what we would really the substance of the work is that you folks would, and I know this has already started, you would start to put together a subcommittee that would work on developing the proposed regional agreement. And when that's established, we would meet virtually with that group on a regular basis and start to put the document together. We've done, although this is a new regional agreement, the process for it is very similar to a lot of work we've done in the past with updating agreements and that sort of thing. So there's some background work that the RFQ requires us to do, which we'll complete in terms of familiarizing ourselves with the regional agreements for Pioneer Valley Regional and the regional agreement for Gil Montague Regional. And then there are some other agreements that were developed but not implemented or fully improved. One was from the CART committee. I think Mac was all involved in that work. And so we'll familiarize ourselves with the background information regarding regional current and proposed regional agreements from the past. And then also we're going to be reviewing the Abrams report on assessment methodologies, although that comes later in the work on that comes later in the process. So after we've done some homework with that and we start to meet with the subcommittee, I think you've called it the DRAS committee. And that's, in our experience, that's composed of some people from the planning board, some of you, and then you want to make an effort to have the towns represented in some way. You don't need to have a select board and finance committee member from every town, but it is nice to have one or the other from every town. Or school committee member, that's also important sometimes. So the composition of the group is something that hopefully you can work on and make some progress with. And of course, in addition to the role that people have in their town of residence, elected official or whatever, it's also great for the process if we can work with people who have an understanding of consensus and can be good committee members. The process itself is about taking 1 or 2 sections at a time. So we don't come to the subcommittee with a 15 or 16 or 18-page document every time. You basically be looking at 1 or 2 or 3 pages at a time. And the process we follow involves bringing you a baseline draft for 1 section. And we've made some changes to that based on statute and regulation. And then at the meeting, we ask for your input. And we record that input and we build it into the document, that section. And it can also obviously be question and answer and discussion. At the next meeting, we bring that same section back to you so that you see all of the changes that you've requested, and we make sure that you're comfortable with it. And then we ask you to vote a tentative approval for just that section. So the tentative approval is not final in any way. It just allows us to document that there's enough agreement about this to move on to the next section. So after you vote tentative approval for, let's say, section 1, then we will do the same thing and we roll out section 2 and we show that to you, get your input, make the changes, and that's the way we work through the document. At the end of the process, as we get towards the end of it, there is final review on the part of the drafts committee, and there would be a final vote or endorsement to send it back to the planning board for the review and their endorsement. And at that point, it's appropriate for us to ask the Department of Education to, well, let me stop myself there. I jumped ahead too much. When the document has been approved by the planning board, by you folks, the next step in that is to start to ask legal counsel for the member towns, the proposed member towns, to look at the agreement and also provide input and approval there and to endorse it. We want local legal review to come first. And then when that's done, we send it to the Department of Education for their preliminary legal review. And then it's in pretty good shape after that all happens, and it can start to be shared with the communities and the public for their input and eventually for a vote. So that's the way we propose to go about it. Trying to get back to Zoom here, and I don't know if you have any questions, but that's the process in a thumbnail sense.
Can I just add, Jay, that in your request, you want to understand the similarities and differences between what you have now and what this proposed agreement would be. So we will make sure that we put that together and communicate that to you all so you can see how it's similar and how it might be different. And I think you'll find that there are a lot of similarities to what you have in both the Hart Committee and your two functioning regional agreements at this point. And I think that will be helpful to the townspeople to see that there are not a lot of major changes, but there will be some, obviously.
Mac, if I could just add to that. So in the meantime, the Pioneer Districts has been working pretty hard on a regional agreement after Warwick left and trying to update and do some things. So they had a subcommittee that's been working diligently on that. So I don't know if I mentioned that, but that would be something that you might want to look at as well as you're looking at comparing the two existing agreements, and then see if there's any language there that you feel is would be beneficial as you're bringing it through. Jay, if I'm understanding you, and I think that it sounds like you're moving through the process by consensus. Can people live with this, or are the language that you have seems to be fairly acceptable to folks, and then you be moving forward. Is that right? You don't actually take an individual vote of the subcommittee, but you're trying to do this by consensus, or?
I think that's right, Alan. But at the end, when we review the whole document, that's when we really do want to get as much support as possible. Yeah.
Okay.
And then, one other comment I'd make is that, and we can talk more about this offline with Alan and you, but I mean with Greg and you, but the similarity differences thing that Mac, we did make it clear in our proposal that that's not a written report. We're just going to be sort of looking at that and familiarizing ourselves with it and,
Yep.
and talking with the planning board about it. For those of people who are not familiar with building or developing a regional agreement, it's not an open-ended document that you're writing. It's scripted by statute and regulation. And if you want, you can go online to the Department of Education, and they have it's all there. And they have a document that's called Regional School District Agreement Checklist, and that's what we follow. I just want to make the point that it's, it isn't open-ended. It's scripted to a lot, but then beyond that scripted nature, we do want to capture your local priorities and your local values and that sort of thing. And the other general point I would make about an agreement is that it's not about policy. Okay. So it's not going to be about bus rides or whether kids can have cell phones in class or anything like that. It's about governance and finance primarily. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that. So just a couple of follow-up comments. That through our process, which has gone on for almost 4 years, we tried to be real thorough and had to loop back to involve more people and get input. But it was, the people that attended forums and giving their input, and the members of the planning board that served on 3 various subcommittees. When we enter this phase, it is this is that I'll call it, Jay, the critical part in terms of, it's not something that gets approved by the school committee. Of obviously we want their support and input and so forth, but it's a contractor, basically something that has to be approved by the towns, and that's why I was pleased to hear the involvement of community officials, because this is the part where we want to hear, really it's their document that they need to feel that they can live with and they can support. So we want to have a very inclusive process to make sure that we're hearing from our town leaders on as we go through this. Now, I may be wrong on this, Jay, but I kind of envision that that individuals may have conversations with folks. Let's say, I don't know, maybe finance, or it was a finance issue, or if it was a select board or something, to get a little bit of their input as they're going through this. I don't know how you feel about that, or how this is structured in terms of you're involving the people that are representing the towns, and you move it forward and then bring something after that's complete. Can you comment on that, just so that we're sort of on the same page of how you want this to unfold?
Yeah, so in our previous sort of approach to this is that a lot of that falls to the subcommittee members. Okay, so that's why you have a select board member from Northfield, or that's why you have a select board member from Montague. So if they're right on the board, then they can share with their other board members where we are in the process and what we're talking about. And if they want to bring input back to the subcommittee meeting, they can do that. That's the purpose of that kind of representation. Okay. And that it's best when it works that way. Okay. There's nothing in our proposal, though, to be clear, that involves us meeting directly with local officials or going to select board meetings. We're not, that's not there. But certainly their input can be provided through the subcommittee members, or school committee members, or a knowledgeable person in the community. Sure. Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, let me open it up for members to ask any questions you have.
I'll make a comment that I have heard from Berniston, so we do have 2 recommendations from Berniston. One was a former board member, Jane Dutcher. So she was on the FinCom in Berniston. I also received a call from Steve Ellis today, the town manager of Montague. And so Dorinda, you can be on the on this subcommittee. I'm planning on being on it. So I'll be one of the members from Gill, and then Tupper Brown from the Finance Committee is stepped forward to be on it. So we're well on our way. I haven't heard from Northfield yet, or Warwick. I'm assuming, Alan, you're going to be on this. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know yet. I have reached out to someone who has an interest, but if I would be, it might be ex officio, or I may be on it because I do have a couple roles in the community. I'm wondering, does it would it make sense for I see Michelle's here. I could put an invitation out to get on the select board agenda if they agree to just go to one of their meetings, kind of explain to them what we're doing, what we see as the process and the timeline, and if that would help to solicit individuals that may pique their interest and said, yeah, I would like to do that. So I was thinking about that today. We did send out an email, and you saw the document that went out encouraging them to share that and see if they could solicit some people. But I'd be more than happy to do that. It might be helpful.
Alan, I mean, you're stretched pretty thin already. I would say, I mean, if Michelle, I mean, we could.
Yeah, I can say something about Leiden.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
They put it in our newsletter, and the newsletter just came out, and they gave a deadline of next week. So not that anyone has come forward, but I think Leiden needs another week to see who may come forward, or maybe a select board member and a finance committee member would volunteer. Just not sure. So just give me another week.
Yeah, I think.
Is there someone in Northfield that could reach out or go and talk to them, or?
Well, I can reach out to Andrea again and see what's going on in their town. I mean, I know she received the email, so I can reach back out. But so we're looking good as far as Montague. Leiden sounds like it needs another week. And then, it's really, I think if you take care of Warwick, Alan, and it looks like Pat's got her hand up for Northfield.
I spoke today to one of the selectmen. They received one person who's interested, but she's sort of vetting him before she, before they figure out whether that's a good person to have on there or not. Not a new person in town. They don't really know him. So they want to check that out. And they're searching for somebody else. So I think we've maybe got one from Northfield, and we'll be searching for somebody else. So hopefully we'll get that by the time Leiden comes in.
So Alan, if I can make a comment.
Yeah, please, because you
what Pat
talked
just
about a
said.
good size for the committee.
Yeah, what Pat just said reminded me of something. So one of the things that sometimes happens is select board people are pretty busy. They get a lot of meetings. And if there is someone in town who's, and I don't know, an informal leader, a person of standing, somebody who's still active and credible and so forth, that serves just as well. So it doesn't always have to be somebody who's got already a lot of meetings in their schedule. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if I'm considered a person of standing, but I could do it if they couldn't find somebody else. I think
Well,
I
there you go.
certainly have been there and care about public schools.
Yeah. Jay, what are you envisioning for, because I tried to in the letter, let them know the commitment in terms of time and everything's remote, and, that basically you guys would be doing the heavy lifting and putting together the work, and then the subcommittee would be reviewing and having, deliberating on what you bring forward. what do you see? How often do you think you'd be meeting? Would it be like every other week or something, or can you give us an idea of that?
Yeah, so I'll try to take a stab at that, and Matt do the same thing if he wants. The usual thing is a once a month meeting. And we could, the first meeting is when you kind of lay all that out. It's like how often you want to meet, what time of day works. Earlier is I'm a big fan of earlier is better. And the and so you have a sort of a, I don't know what to call it, a preliminary deadline for this work. And that's something that have to be discussed. We've never done it every week. That sounds like a real track meet to me. But you could do more than once a month. Once a month means 12 meetings. By way of example, we just finished not a new agreement, but an update of a regional agreement for Central Berkshire. And it is in the stage now where it's going to the Department of Education for their preliminary rule. So their subcommittee work happened and their legal review happened and their school committee is blessed it. And that took almost a year and a half, meeting once a month. The subcommittee work lasted a year, but they had a pretty good document to start with. So Mac and I worked on another project at Narragansett. We did monthly meetings there, but it can be more frequent if everybody can get there and buy in. I guess the only other thing I'd say is that some of the sections are more involved than others. And when you get to something like budget and apportionment, you might want to schedule some meetings in quicker succession to kind of get through it. But I don't know, Mac, do you want to add to that?
Generally, we have had monthly meetings, but and I think for the first couple at least, it would be good to have a month in between. We have a lot of homework to do in between once we hear what committee members are interested in putting in there. And sometimes we have to pursue that with the DESE even at that time to say, if we did this, would this be permissible? So having some time in between is helpful. Once we get going, if we find that the subcommittee functions very well, maybe once a month for the year would do it. If we find that we're sticking on some things, we could during the process move it up to twice a month if members want to do that. So we can kind of play that by ear and see how we do. As Jay said, there are a couple of things that usually take more time, the financial issues and some of the government issues are sticky, but I think if we start off once a month, we can play it by ear.
All right, so yeah, so I was obviously, hey, this conversation you'll have with the subcommittee about what their thoughts are on. I was just thinking, going back to the February of 2025, that might start off every other week or something, but you can have that conversation with the subcommittee. The thinking is if the document was voted on sometime in the February, it might be at the latter part. It gives then some of February, March, April, May, because town meetings are, I don't know. I think the first town meeting is in May. Warwick is the first meeting Monday, I think, in May. But that would give at least 3 months to, again, get it out community, do the education piece to what this entails and so forth. So I want to just make sure that there's enough time to really explain to the community what's it about, and probably there would be a pre-town meeting or something to go over it before that. Of course, you could always do it at a special, but that's a conversation you can have later. Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, Alan, I would not recommend having the vote at town meeting. I would very much discourage that. I would think that we would need to do a special and to have the vote happen, if we can, with all 6 towns potentially on the same day. I see a lot of political problems with trying to have votes go through several towns at different times. I think that's not a good idea. So,
I agree.
And that idea, and that's true. When we had our meeting, Jay, with in November 14th with all of the towns, that was a suggestion that came up, that it would be helpful to have it. Someone even suggested you have like all the towns have it, I don't know if it was one town meeting with everyone involved, but I think the other idea of if they could have it on the same day, it would help in the process. So we can talk about that in more detail.
Yeah, I think Greg makes a good comment. The other thing too, I don't want to get into too many details right now, but when you get to the point where, let's say, the planning board has endorsed this, and you need legal counsel for the member towns to look at it, you're not really in control of how quickly that happens. It can take a while. The document we're working on right now with Central Berkshire, it took 2.5 months for those, I think they have 6 towns, for those 6 towns to work through their legal review and get a memo back to the school committee. So some of these things you don't have control of the timetable.
I would also,
and I just want to remind you that.
I would also add that because you would be having a new regional school district, the law requires the whole process, including the commissioner signing off on this by a December 31st in order for you to start the new school district the following July 1st. So that December 31st is a critical time period for you.
But that will come after we've got a really good proposed regional agreement. Yeah.
Right.
So let me just make sure I understand that. So if that were let's just, optimistic. Let's say it went to town meeting, however that is, in the spring of 2025, and I was envisioning that there's a whole transition process that's going to take some time because of all the elements that now need to be addressed before a new district comes in play. So is that something, Jay, that you've been involved in as well, that the transition time needed for curriculum and setting the stage for the creation of a district,
Can
including?
I answer that, Jay?
Well, I'll take a quick step and turn it over to you, Mac. Okay. I've been involved with a transition school committee in a situation where a regional added another town. Okay. Because that makes for a new district. And you do need a transitional school committee in this instance with your project. And there's going to be a lot of work to do for that transitional school committee. Further, the regional agreement is going to have to specify how that transitional school committee is formed. Okay. I think Mac has worked through a little bit more of the details than I have on a new region, but yeah, there needs to be a transition committee, and there's a fair amount of work to do before the new district becomes operational.
So
Thank you.
what happens is there will be 3 school committees operating at one time. Once the towns have approved this and the commissioner approves this, generally the following year is a transition year, and there will be a school committee for the new 6-town regional district. The Pioneer School Committee will continue to operate, and the Gilmontague School Committee will continue to operate. So all 3 of those will operate, so that the new 6-town regional school committee would be just looking at the future, setting up, as you said, thinking about the curriculum, mostly thinking about the finances, how that's all going to work. So for that 1 year, generally, you'll have these three school committees and three school districts operating at the same time. And then at the end of that period, the new 6-town regional would take over generally on a July 1st.
All right, thank you. I'm going to go to Bill. Thank you for answering that, because people have asked me that question and I've only answered it. Well, I envision this, but I'm not sure. And we'll get more on that later. Bill?
Thank you. I think it's pretty clear, Alan, that you're too optimistic in your timeline. And because these people are saying that they're going to take at least a year, and so that brings you up to March of next year. And then it needs to go to legal, and then it needs to go to further understanding. So you're, in real terms, you personally need to start looking at FY26, is my opinion. And I think that the Mars group would back me up on that. And that's all I have to say. Thank
All right,
you.
thank you. I guess we'll start the process and see where we are. You may be right, spot on. Certainly it appears that in the comments that we've heard.
Well, also in all of this, you have to start considering where we're getting funding from. And you have an extension on a current grant. So now you have to start thinking about what you're going to do additionally when FY25 starts, because this grant doesn't last forever.
Well, I'll just chime in. The grant has been extended to the end of June in 2025. So I think we're okay with being able to get the regional agreement drafted by then. For me, the timeline seems more reasonable for a special town meeting vote to be sometime in the fall next year. Could be potentially, a reasonable time frame, but maybe not. Depends on what Jay brought up as far as the legal review. So
that's FY26. It has to be done by December 31st to initiate on July 1st of 26, which gets you into 27.
I'm just speaking in terms of the timeline when it might move to a town vote. That's all.
All right. So does anyone have any questions specific to their proposal that they laid out in terms of what they would be doing, and any questions along there? Karen, do you have your hand up?
I do.
Cliff
Yes.
has
Cliff has his hand up too.
I'm just wondering what the role of the full 6-town regional planning board is during the development of the regional agreement. Do we receive reports at our regular meetings, and so forth? What are we doing in the meantime? Thank you.
Jay, you want to field that?
It's really up to you. I was thinking that this was really your question. The subcommittee is going to be working with us, and
Yes.
what the planning board chooses to explore is kind of up to you and Greg and the members. Yeah.
So I had a couple thoughts on that. One of them was, Jay, that as you're moving along your process, if there appeared to be some decision points that maybe needed some broader input than in the planning, the subcommittee was looking for more input, that the subcommittee would want to bring it back, under conversations with you to the full committee to say, we're looking at this, we're leaning both ways, we'd like to get some input before. So I thought that would necessitate coming back to the full planning board, if that occurred. The other thing, Karen, is I'm envisioning that along the way, the subcommittee would say, we have enough that, we would like to bring it back to the full committee to share where we are right now.
You mean instead of waiting till the very end?
Right,
We have
right.
enough to share with you. It might be once every 3 or 4 months, but whatever.
Well,
Is that what you
going,
mean?
yeah, going back to Jay's point, I would think that the subcommittee might want to, as they complete a section, bring that back to the full committee to say, we've completed this, here's where we are, so we see what it is on that section. So I may be wrong on that. Jay?
Yeah, I wouldn't go that deep into section by section share.
Okay.
I think that what Karen said though makes some sense. I think that you get halfway through, or you get a third of the way through, or something like that, and you could have a meeting with the subcommittee members and talk about how it's going.
Mhm.
And maybe we go to that meeting, and maybe we don't, and you can kick around whatever questions you have, but I really wouldn't do a section by section
Okay.
kind of update. That's too you guys have been having a lot of meetings. I would think you might want to take a break.
Take a break.
But also, I think Cliff, I see his hand is up and he hasn't been called on yet.
Yeah, so I want to kind of reel it back to town meetings because Montague, unlike the other 5 towns, is a representative town meeting, of which I'm a town meeting member. We can't necessarily vote on something like this. May have to go to a referendum vote to the voters, which is going to add to the timeline. We can't just say, yep, we're going to do it. We actually have to talk to our constituents. So we have to sometimes add that extra layer.
Yeah, so there might just be a need for a legal recommendation on whether representative town meeting can vote on this or whether you're going to do something different. I can't speak to that tonight.
Yeah, because a lot of it we have to answer to our constituents. We can't just vote the way we want. We have to vote the way our constituents want.
Right, I understand. So again, you can get some advice about how to handle that.
Hey, I would just throw in, Alan, one thing that we just haven't talked about, which I think is that the full board can be also working on public outreach through this time. We need to be ramping up our marketing and communication, and that can be done for by those who, some people may be on that subcommittee, but those that aren't, we can be doing more public outreach. So, that doesn't just stop. It's actually more important now than ever. So.
All right, so if is there any other discussion? Because I'll try to frame a motion, entertain a motion, and then if someone's interested, someone could move it, which would become the motion, and then have a second, and then we could do a vote.
Well,
I'll make a motion.
Any
other suggestions?
Oh,
Yes.
Did you want a motion? I'll make a motion to award the grant to the Mars Group.
Okay, wait a minute. In the amount of 48,245.
Right. Thank you.
And then is there any additional services, then we would negotiate that beyond that amount. But this amount includes the scope that in their proposal.
As stated within the scope of work and deliverables.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, Michelle seconded it. Any other discussion? And the motion is for the Mars Consulting Group. I think that's the official title. All right, are we all set to vote? Greg, let's do a roll call.
Okay, Cliff,
Yeah.
David,
Aye.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Pat. Oh, you need to unmute yourself, Pat.
I'm not a good lip reader, but I think it's yes.
Give me a thumbs up, Pat. There you go. All right.
There we go.
Deb
Your mic is muted.
Deb Loomer,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
okay, Dorinda,
Yes.
Raina,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Deb, OT,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Okay, unanimous.
Okay, thank you for that. So I think that it might make sense to this, so we're all the way up, believe it or not, to item 8. And it might make sense to postpone the nominations. So to members and have an opportunity to solicit more. And at our next meeting, let's see if we can appoint members. The reason for that process is they have to be a subcommittee of the planning board. So the recommendations come forth from the select board. We make the appointment on those recommendations, and so it's a subcommittee of the planning board. So why don't we do that in a couple weeks, and then I'll be asking one of the members one of the planning board members if they would be willing to serve as the subcommittee chair. So I'd like you to think about that and either call me or email me. And then at least we could bring that forward, because it would be the planning board that would be doing that. The other way you could do it is the subcommittee gets together and they decide and elect a chair. I want to thank Mars for joining us this evening. I'm sure you have a lot of things to do. You're welcome to stay with us, or if you've got other things you need to do, you certainly can sign off. But we so much appreciate your interest in helping us move this process along, and then we'll see where we are.
Okay, Alan, one final thing is I'm going to be reaching out to you and Greg for an offline conversation here prior to contract signing. I think I mentioned that before.
Yes,
Okay.
you did. Yep, sounds great.
All right, that's not going to be right away. It probably won't be till 13, 14 of March or a little
Yep.
later.
All
Okay,
right. Very good. Thank you.
thank you. Have a great
Thank you.
meeting, folks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks.
thanks.
Thank you.
So we won't be appointing town meetings right now, because it'd be nice to do it as a slate. And anyone that has an interest in serving on the planning board, I think, Greg, that's good in terms of you're on the planning board. You're also on the select board. So, that's good representation. And then you have another one to join you. When I talked to Jay earlier about 2 from every town, he thought that, and then a few from the planning board. I said that brings us to around 15, 16. He thought his experience was, if the number was more around 12, it seems to be more manageable and move the process along. So that's what their experience is. He said it doesn't have to be 2 from each town, but certainly he agrees there's got to be town representation from every town, because this is something the towns are voting on, and we need them to be involved in part of that decision making every step of the way on the creation of this document. So we're almost ready to adjourn. How are we going to? We should probably establish some kind of. Why don't we do this? Why don't we establish a meeting date, which would be after the March 14th, and we could do the appointments then. Yes, Greg.
Did we skip over the website?
Oh, we did. Oh, I'm so sorry.
I want to make sure Dorinda has. I mean,
Yeah, no. I'm so
put some
sorry.
time into that. Maybe we found some
turned
other
the
things.
page and shouldn't have done that. So Dorinda's been actively busy talking to web designers, and she went through the process of putting information out and talking to Joanne and so forth to follow all the guidelines. And so why don't I turn this over to you, Dorinda, to give us an update of where we are there.
Well, do we need to officially appoint her, or is she already officially appointed because she's?
No,
Okay.
we need to officially appoint her.
Okay. So the person who did the website for the 8-town regionalization, the website looked what we felt like was a good fit for what we needed. We put out, a request to other web designers, but didn't hear another reply. So we have that person who we've essentially locked in. What we need going forward, she can work on the design. We have content from the existing webpage, but it's not very welcoming or common language necessarily. So we need somebody to sort of work on, or, join the PR subcommittee who would be able to craft that language succinctly, sort of excitingly, in a way that would be accessible to people. And I feel like that would be the main thing. That's the main update as we move forward, because it's pretty much like she could just plug in all the content and plug in things like stock photos. We may take some of our own photos of the schools or other things we want to see in the community, depending on what we want to put in this webpage. Because I think there's, I read through the 8-town document, and there's nothing in the 8-town document that like common people would necessarily be interested in at all. Just so, they'd want to know about things like buses, or about the vision for curriculum, or, the meshing of cultures or things. So like, it's our opportunity not to promise, because we can't promise anything, but sort of, share ideas that are out there.
So Dorinda, would it help then to, because you've been doing a lot of this on your own. I think Jennifer was early on giving different ideas. Do you want to have a subcommittee of 2 or 3 people to help you with this work? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think if somebody sees themselves in that way and knows that they can sort of craft language in that way comfortably, or language in that way, then yeah, they should self-appoint.
All right. Do you want them to get in touch with you? I always feel bad at putting people on the spot.
Or else I'll just write things and then ask Karen to edit them.
All right.
Or Bill, or somebody who's our RDC is like giving feedback on words.
Well, Bill has been good at that. Karen's been good at that.
Yeah.
I mean, we have people that are pretty good at succinctly expressing things better than I. Yeah, could you reach out to Dorinda maybe after this meeting, or fairly soon, to offer to look at different aspects along the way, and if you're comfortable, craft something that can go onto the website?
I was going to say, I would just help out in terms of, and I'd say it jokingly, but I am a very common language person. And every time there's a document, I go, it's not hitting me, because I just want it spit out there, just spit it out. And so that's what I have to offer you. Is it going to be the right word at the right time, sort of thing? And maybe that isn't what people are, necessarily want to hear, is all the bull. They just want to know the facts, simple little facts. So I don't know, but I'd be willing to help you out in that sense.
That sounds good.
Yeah. So in a school district, generally I don't know what title they call them now, but there's, before something gets posted, it gets reviewed. Someone takes a look at it and sort of gives it, yes, this is good, and then the principal or whoever can put it up. It's not necessarily always the technology coordinator or director. So are we thinking that someone crafts this and then there's somebody that gives their blessing and then it goes up? Or what are we thinking for structure on that, if any?
Well, we can mostly present everything we want to her in just a Word document or whatever format we're comfortable, and it'll just be copy paste, and then we'll be once she gets the draft in, we can readily edit it ourselves.
Okay. Jen, did you have something? I thought I saw you.
I had like half a thought. I just whatever is done with Dorinda and this other third party, they can just do it. There's not a stop here to confirm anything, right? She can just go.
Right, because it doesn't need to be live. You can just make a website and then not push it live yet.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. Anything else, Dorinda?
I was just
no, it looks like it has a comment.
Yeah, we've already sort of moved forward with contracting her because we didn't get any other quotes, and it was so reasonable because she had already done another website. So she came in at like just over $1,000, which is unbelievably reasonable.
But I think it's partly because she's already done it. She's already got all the templates already ready to go, and it's a matter of just pulling the content from our website and sort of plug and play. So that's really good for us because it
Yep.
frees up some of the marketing funds that we have for possible other uses. So
Yeah, it might be legal review. Dorinda, can you frame a motion for that so we can officially hire her?
How about Greg does that?
I think we already did. I don't think you need to. I think
Okay.
it's
We don't need to because
no, because even Joanne said you don't need to, like, you know, we didn't send out an RFQ or anything for it. It was just
because it's a lower cost.
yeah, and it's also just a very small amount.
Okay.
Yeah. It's more like
All right, I'm good with that
more
then.
like a
If you've got the
vendor
blessing of Joanne, we're
consultant.
doing this under the auspices of the Gilmonago Regional School District. So I would acquiescence to her judgment. So that's great. Did I miss anything else? Because I envisioned this to be about an hour meeting. So when can we meet again? Why don't we look at our calendars and try to get a date? So we know that it has to be after March 14th. And that will meet. Michelle, did you say the 22nd? When did you say?
When
When did you say you were going to hear back, or you in the?
I said, I can't remember. I don't have the newsletter in front of me, but
Do you think it was
can't
after March
remember.
14th?
No, and the
No,
end
I
of
think
this,
it was.
end of next week or something.
I think it was. Yeah, I said give me another week. I want to
Okay.
say March 1st or March 11th, but some
Okay.
people don't get the newsletter until after the 1st. So I don't think it was March 1st.
Okay.
So let's say the 11th.
I would suggest, why don't we go after March 13th and 14th, because we'll have our meeting with Jay and Mac. And by then, if you get recommendations, you can just email them to me. And then in the next meeting shortly after that, we can appoint the subcommittee, and then we'll have something to comment on in regard to the Mars group. Does that sound like a plan? Like the week of the 19th
Yeah.
or 18th?
Yeah. So could we meet on the Bill? Is the Gilmonago School District meeting on the 19th? That's a
No,
Tuesday. They're not.
no, the 12th and the 26th.
Could we meet on Tuesday then, the 19th? At 6:30?
Yep.
Yeah, I will be maybe little. You can meet. Just go ahead without me. I'm flying back from my vacation.
All right.
I'll be unavailable that day too.
No, that's okay. I mean, it's still looks like most of the rest are okay.
Yeah.
So
The major thing on that is so that they can get forward is to make the appointment so we officially have a subcommittee, and then we'll give all the email addresses and stuff to Jay, and then he can coordinate a meeting with folks. Michelle, I did mention, just for full disclosure, I did mention to Michelle, since way back in, I think it was 2017, 18, she was chair of the Heart Committee and worked with Steve Himman and Mac actually in looking at putting together a regional agreement and she's been working with Pioneer, right, with their regional agreement. I thought that she would be an excellent choice to be the subcommittee chair. So I just want to let people know that I put that out there.
Yeah, and I have not made any decision. I don't know how much bandwidth I have.
Yeah. All right. So anyone with interest in that, because we'll need a chair.
Yeah, someone please come forward.
All right. So we have a date then. And I think that's going to conclude our business for tonight. So March 19th. And any other things along the way, I would just shoot out an email. Something just flashed across my screen, but I couldn't read it quick enough. Deb, I missed it.
So
wait a minute. I guess I can put it. I can look.
just said she might not be there due to an obligation at Greenfield High School. That's all. But
Okay. All right. All right. Well, if we can get a quorum, Greg, you'll at some point send out that and people can look at their calendars just to make sure we do have a quorum. And if they could,
Already sent out a Zoom invite. I think it already.
all right. All right. All right. Any other business that we need to address? I thank you all for
I move
being part of this process and this journey as we've made it through. And look forward to getting a regional agreement together. And I think that Bill's right in terms of we'll have to see how that's going and probably modify things as we go. But we'll begin the process. We'll hear back from the subcommittee what their thoughts are about this as we're going forward. And then we'll need to be flexible. The last thing I want to do is try to rush this. So we need to make sure we're involving folks and we have a nice methodical process, and then we'll go from there. So I thank you.
I second the motion to adjourn.
And who made it?
I made the motion.
All right, Deb made the motion, seconded by David. Roll call vote. Alan Genovese, yes.
I say
Michelle,
Jennifer Constant, yes.
Michelle,
Karen
yeah.
O'Neill, yes.
David Young, yes.
Greg, yes.
Brenda Bellick, yes.
yes.
Pat, yes.
Yeah, Deb Batiste said yes.
Bye.
Did I hear from
Bye.
Raina and Steve?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. All right, thanks, folks.
Bye.
Appreciate it. Adjourning at 7:30.